Hello and a happy Christmas to all of you at home. And happy Boxing Day, because that's when this episode is actually going out. I hope you're having a happy holiday season, whether you're celebrating Christmas or any of the other possible holidays that are going on at this time of year. Just wanted to say very quickly, I am very grateful for all the comments that I've had on YouTube, and particularly Adrian Sherlock, who comments most weeks. Any of the rest of you, if you've commented once, I'm very happy to have your comments. I'm not so great at responding to them, either on YouTube, and obviously I can't easily respond to them in the course of these podcasts because I've already recorded the bulk of them, and I don't often stop to record an extra bit like I'm doing right now. So sorry for that. As ever, the way that you can get involved with future episodes of the podcast, and there are 12 left, is to go to UFOcast.co.uk/captain and volunteer to make a contribution of your thoughts on any of the remaining episodes. And there are some. I will endeavour to update the website so it is an accurate representation of the gaps that I have left, because there are quite a few. And I don't have one this week, because the person who signed up never got back to me. If you have ever filled in the form on the website and you haven't heard from me, please do get in touch, either via the Twitter account, which is UFO_cast, I believe, or UFOcast@yahoo.com, because I would still love to have your contributions. Anyway, once again, a happy Christmas and enjoy Dangerous Rendezvous. Hello and welcome to the UFOcast as Captain Scarlet, episode 20, Dangerous Rendezvous. So I said last week this is the conclusion of the 3-part trilogy that began with Lunarville 7, continued with Crater 101, and finishes with Dangerous Rendezvous. And as you'll hopefully recall, I enjoy the first 2 parts of this trilogy. And this is certainly the weak link. But I want to try and be positive about it first. I feel that may have been a shortcoming in some of my recent reviews on this podcast. So before we get into what I don't think works, let's at least be positive about what does work, which is the tension at the end, the Greenland stuff. I mean, I've never been to Greenland. I don't know what Greenland looks like, but I think that Captain Scarlet Greenland is well realised as a location. The bleakness of it, the isolation. That was the bit of the episode where the tension was actually mounted up, because there was finally a race against time to be dealt with. The Mistron threat finally coming into focus at the end of the story, and once again the Mistron's playing the game of, well, I don't know. Is it we're going to leave this clue? Because if they hadn't got Captain Scarlet to go to this location and try to blow him up with the pulsator, then they wouldn't have realised that the pulsator was potentially a bomb, and therefore wouldn't have saved Cloudbase. So it's another of these, like the Mistrons hoist on their own petard, maybe, or giving the Earthmen a clue, giving them a chance to avoid the threat. Because as I've said before, the Mistrons could carry out their threats so easily without warning, but choose not to and choose to play this game. I guess I would have liked to have seen more of a conversation between Captain Black and Captain Scarlet before pressing play on the tape recorder. I suppose that feels like the biggest missed opportunity of this episode, in that it resets the status quo at the end to, right, okay, the Mistron War is carrying on, essentially. There's been no movement forward. I don't know. Maybe they felt that it was too simple a format to mess with. You couldn't kind of progress things without ruining the show. I suppose it's fair enough. The other thing that I enjoyed was the fact that Captain Oka is the one that saves the day. Essentially, you feel that Oka, Magenta, and Grey in particular, who has kind of disappeared from the show now because his voice actor is no longer providing voices. But you feel that those minor captains don't get a lot to do. So it's always nice when one of them gets to be part of the action and save the day. Well, there's various issues with this episode. One of which I alluded to was that there's a lack of tension for most of the episode, because there isn't a Mistron agent at work, apart from the brief appearance of Captain Black at the end. Yeah, there's no tension mounting as a Mistron agent skulks around Cloud Base preparing to blow it up. We basically don't know what the Mistrons are doing until very late in the day, and then it's like, oh, okay, they're going to blow it up. There's also very obvious padding in the form of the recap of episode 1, which in some senses is necessary to the message. You're like, well, it's not entirely out of place that Colonel White is going, okay, well, this is our version of events. This is what we think happened for the Mistrons to respond to. But equally, it's a chance to recycle a couple of minutes of footage from the first episode. And then let's have a demonstration of the Angels and our cap microphones. Which we've basically had, 19 episodes of not explaining how the cap microphones work, and it's very much a case of show don't tell. Like, we get it, we understand how this works. This scene is clearly there to pad out, and I suppose it also now has the extra dimension of looking incredibly dated, because you wouldn't be particularly impressed by such a system today, because mobile phones are that much more sophisticated. I suppose it's still impressive that the sound clarity of the Spectrum communication system is amazing, and there aren't any issues with mobile reception. But the idea of like, ooh, the right coloured light flashes on my desk, or my shoulder things flash the right colour. Which is always a bit weird, because like they're on their shoulders, so it's like they're there for the viewer. There's also the question of how does the cap microphone swing down. They never explain that. It appears to be like psychic to some extent, unless they've got a button in their pocket which they press. I keep wondering about whether there's a video. Well, there certainly is. There's a video in things in Jerry Anderson shows that still seemed futuristic in the 90s when I watched them as a kid, 25 years after original broadcast, and things that haven't held up now. I was watching Day of a Disaster the other day, which is a very clear example of this in Brains' talking watch, which obviously now is not at all a cause for thinking somebody is having a psychiatric episode. The idea of a watch that you could talk to is commonplace. And similarly with this, I guess in 1968, and again also in the early 90s, the idea of these cap microphones that swing down and you can talk to somebody anywhere in the world was still quite amazing. Whereas now it's like, well, yeah, I've got my phone. So I think overall a lack of tension. I feel there's a good episode to be made out of the Mistrons threatening Cloud Base. This is not it. Oh yeah, TARDIS consoles. Let's just let's throw that in as a last comment. The console that is built to communicate with the Mistrons does look vaguely, well, it's hexagonal, so that is always going to remind one of the TARDIS. So as far as the episode order goes, this comes in a similar place on the DVD. Again, we said last week there's that gap between Crater 101 and Dangerous Rendezvous on the DVD, whereas they come back to back here on the Blu-ray. And then you have the weird situation of this being episode 4 on the VHS, because of the fact that first VHS tape is a compilation of Shadow of Fear and the 3 episodes of the Moon trilogy. If you started here, then it wouldn't make any sense at all. Particularly, as I said, there's the recap of something that you haven't seen yet. New Mistron powers. I haven't written anything down for this, but I suppose exploding your pulsator probably counts. Mistron still at large is Captain Black, of course. And is this a win or a loss? Well, I suppose it's definitely a win for Spectrum in the sense that Cloud Base is not blown up. I suppose it's not a win in the sense that communicating with the Mistrons fails to work. But as far as the episode and the Mistron threat goes, then Spectrum win out again. So that's that for Dangerous Rendezvous. Next week, join me for Special Assignment.